What's up guys, I'll be showing you how to fix the radiator, or just replace the radiator on a 2004 Toyota Camry. Hope you guys enjoy. So the first thing you're going to want to do is expose the radiator, and for me it's going to be these top two bolts, and then take this out. So these two are going to be 10mm bolts. And this should just slide right out. So removing that now allows me to see inside. I'm going to have to take this fan box off to get to the radiator, which is behind it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to clip these zip ties which are holding the vacuum lines and disconnect all the connectors from their spots. If those disconnected, there's a little connector down here. You just push it through the little. Now that I've got the wiring harness disconnected, I'm going to go ahead and put it up here, and then now it's time to drain the coolant. Make sure that the car is cold. You will burn yourself. It's very hot. For convenience, I'm going to go ahead and jack the car up and put the car on jack stands. Now that I'm under the car, I'm going to continue to take off these clamps with the wires, and then I'm also going to disconnect the hose lines after I empty the coolant out. So now I'm just taking that and putting it under the petcock. I'm taking pliers as well, just to make it easier, and I don't really want to strip it or break it, so it's just an easy way to do it. Just crack it and then turn the rest with my hands. So I don't know if you could tell based on the stream. The issue I'm having is that it's red and green as well. That's not good. That means there's transmission fluid getting into the coolant system. The symptoms I've been having is overheating transmission, and the cooler lines are also cold, which means fluid isn't getting through the cooler lines to cool down the transmission. There's no indicator telling me that the transmission's overheating. However, when I run the vehicle for extended periods of time and I shut it off, I could tell that it's not cooling down, and the engine bay gets extremely hot, as well as the engine will be cool and completely cool, but 3 hours later the transmission is still extremely hot, which is not a good sign for your internals or transmission. So it's just about finished draining here. Now I'm going to remove the trans cooler lines, which run this way, and I believe this is the inlet and this is the outlet. As you can see, since we drained it, there's nothing coming out of this here. There should be coming out of this though, and that's what I need to worry about. If it gets a little tight, in here and you can't get this off, you can just take a screwdriver and kind of lift around the edges. Sometimes if I can't get it, then I use WD-40 as well, and I just lift the edge and then I put it in that way. So now I gotta take this one off. That off. Make sure the vacuum hoses aren't connected to it. So I'm gonna come down here and look at these. These are bolts. They look like 10mm. They look like 10mm bolts here, and you just want to disconnect it from the radiator. So that one, and that one are the only ones I see right now. There might be some at the bottom, but right now I'm just gonna go ahead and take these off. I think what I'm gonna have to do is take this metal bracket off as well. That's 10mm as well. Disconnect those torn wires. And the whole assembly should come out. Okay, so now I have the old radiator here and the new radiator here. And you just want to go by comparison to see if they're the same. So I have the inlet hose here, inlet hose here. So I'll take that off. This actually might be to make sure dirt doesn't get in there. So I have this here, and then the pitcock. Okay, inlet or outlet hose. Outlet hose, it's covered, as you can see. That rubber piece on it. Another one, which is one right there, and then these are the same. You take these off and put those on here, just like that. What I'm going to do now is swap these, just to keep dirt out of it. It's not good. I'm going to go ahead and clean this up and then insert it into this one. Now you just want to inspect the O-ring that goes around there. That one right there. And Also remember that it's plastic, so don't be too rough on it. It might strip it, and then you have a bigger problem. This is also loose, so I'm gonna tighten that down too. Something I did that I didn't realize is you don't have to take these off. The only ones you have to take off are these two, the top ones and the bottom one. The top two and the bottom one, and then you can get it out. The other ones, these are already broken, so I'm gonna have to zip tie that back. So as you can see, these two mounting points, here and here. This is for your AC. Mine works, so don't fix what's not broken. These two here are what are gonna go on those mounting points. So what I'm doing is I'm putting these bolts back into the radiator and tightening them down before, and then just putting the whole thing in as one assembly, just to make it easier on myself and to avoid damages. So I'm just snugging these down. I don't want to snap the bolts or hurt the radiator at all. It is a very soft metal. Now I'm gonna put it in as one assembly. One thing to know when you're reassembling this piece, the line, I need to find the other mount for that. Put that mount on, so now I have both of these mounts here. Now I can start reassembling this piece. Make sure these mounting points are snug in there as well, or else they're going to rattle around and move, and it could damage the fins. So now that's in, you got to put the bolts back in here, the back one here I got with the wrench, and then the top ones, these two here, and these two here. Okay, now that you have your radiator installed, I went ahead and got stuff to do the flushes. So I got my transmission oil filter and gasket, and then I got some coolant and transmission fluid. We're going to go ahead and drain the transmission. Open her up and finish draining it, throw the other filter on, put it back on, and then bring it down to have it flushed. So what I'll be doing is taking this and popping it loose. This is the transmission pin. Something pretty tight. There we go. Put the pan under it, and what you're going to do is drain the rest of the transmission fluid. Prefer taking this all the way off, just faster. And see, my transmission is still warm from earlier. The reason I know it's overheating is because I've been working on it for a few hours and it's still hot or warm. So while that's draining the rest out, I'm gonna start cracking these. What I'm gonna do is loosen all the back ones first, and then start taking off the front ones, so that the back starts coming down first, so I could drain the rest of the oil that's in the pan out. Okay, so I got most of them loose. I'm gonna go ahead and wipe this off and put the drain bolt back in. Not tight, just enough where it doesn't keep leaking. So probably like hand tight, like that. If you want to take this and just make sure it's a little snug. I spilled a lot, so I'll have to clean that up. What I gotta get in here, and back to these ones. As soon as I get these back ones here, it'll start flowing. So basically, the hardest part are the back left ones, and as you can see, I'm getting them with just a regular 10 wrench. After that, I'm using an extension and the same 10mm socket, and it should be fine getting to those. Okay, I just want to show you, this is how I'm doing it. I'm taking all the back ones off here, and then I'm loosening all of these ones, and then the rest, and it'll start dripping at the bottom here, so I can drip it into the oil. Okay, watch as I loosen this bolt. When I loosen this bolt here, this will start to drop. Do you see it? That's what's going to happen the farther you get down, and then it'll start dumping into the drain. Okay, I just realized something. This year, make and model of Camry, Toyota wanted you to bring it to them, I'm assuming, because if you look, this bar, I don't know if you can see it, this bar is in the way of the transmission right here, so I'm going to have to pull it out towards myself and then let it dump. So I pulled it out towards me, and there's the oil draining. Something you want to do that I didn't do yet, I should have, is pull your transmission dipstick out so it doesn't get damaged in the process of it coming out. And then just go ahead and remove the transmission pan. Don't pull on it, just make sure to be gentle with it. You could damage internals, and you don't want to do that. Alright, so that's the transmission pan I just pulled out right now. We're looking inside of it. I got a new gasket. This one's already cracking. That's not good. That could be due to heat, because I replaced this a few months ago. And then you're going to get in here and notice the filter. The filter is a major part of it because it catches all the contaminants that could be happening, causing damage. 3 10mm bolts, 1, 2, and then 3 on the back. This, when you pull it down, after you take the bolts out, there could be a good possibility that it will leak fluid. So make sure, if you don't want to make a mess, to be careful about that, because you don't want to get your ground soaked. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this one. It's getting dark, so I apologize for the lighting. There's one. There's 2. And here's a third one. Now you should just be able to pull down on this and pop it loose. Yeah, see, there's oil spillage coming out of there. The magnets don't look, oh yeah, they do. This stuff is normal. If you see any real big metal flakes, you have an issue, and that's extremely bad. You don't want that at all. So I'm going to go ahead and dump the rest of this out, spray it up with brake clean and clean it, and take a look at the magnets. What I'm going to do is pull these magnets and just taking a look at them. I don't know if you can see all that residue. I'm just going to clean that up. I don't see any big metal flakes in it. This person is worried about having issues with coolant getting into the the transmission. And that could happen when your radiator goes bad. I wanted to make sure this is the same part. So there's 3 holes, there's an inlet and an outlet. Same. Good. Now I'm going to go put this back in the transmission. Alright, so now that I have the new part, I'm going to put it in. And since I can see that that's a female part, I'm going to put the male part in it and line up the 2 holes. Just like that. Now this is a little weird. Yeah, that's weird. Hold on. It doesn't seem to be fitting in there like it did. It's because of the O-ring. So you're going to have to transfer the O-rings. And I can feel the O-ring. It's in good condition still. Just going to pop this bad boy in there like that. And that should hold it. You don't want to let go too much. It might slip out since it's wet now. Take a bolt. Thread it in there like that. Take this one. Now I really don't like cleaning the inside of the transmission housing, just because there's wires in there and I don't want to have the wires get all messed up and dirty or dry out because of the brake clean. So I'm not sure what the torque specs are, but I'm just going to snug these down. Okay, after we match the 2 gaskets, what you want to do is clean the surface of the pan. I'm also going to want to go back and clean the surface of the transmission housing as well. So clean this all up, make sure it makes a good seal. And you got to make it tacky in order for the gasket to stick. So what I do is I add a few drops of silicone paste around it. You put it on. I'm never going to see him. So I'm just going to work it. I don't want to. When you press the gas, you put it on the white so it doesn't bring leaks. Working here. Okay, so now that it's all tacky, you can see that the holes line up better and it doesn't fall off when I move it around, which is what I want. Now I'm going to go install it. It's the same process, just in reverse. Just a quick tip, remember to tighten your drain bolt on your transmission. You do not want to be driving down the road and then all of a sudden no oil. So what I'm doing now is rerouting my vacuum lines. I'm not rerouting them, I'm just tying them up out and out of the way so that the fan doesn't catch them. I had done this earlier, but I had to cut the zip ties in order to get the radiator off because that's where I zip tied them. So I'm going to be doing that. And then it's a hard place to find because I also have the shifter here and I don't want to get in the way and interfere with that anyway. So probably just going to bring them off to this side. Zip tie these up out of the way, replace these hoses here. I just have this one left, and then get the coolant and transmission fluid going. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going through and replacing all my hoses for my lines, my cooler lines, my transmission, everything. I'm just going to make sure they're all connected, and I have a vacuum leak in my car somewhere. I don't know where. I'm going to recheck those lines and make sure they're all connected. And then I'll go ahead and do the flush. So when you start parking, by the way, you're actually right now it's stabilizing out, and what I'm going to do is check for leaks under the vehicle, all the hoses, and I'm going to add more transmission fluid once I check the level. I'm waiting for it to warm up to suck all that fluid back in. I turn the air conditioner on to run it through the heater core, or the heater more specifically, to run it through there to make sure we have the correct amount. So now I'm going under to check for any leaks. I'm leaking out of the petcock, so what I did was I wrapped the threads of the petcock around with Teflon tape and put it back in, and it stopped the leaking. Now what I'm going to do is apply the e-brake and the manual and the foot brake and shift through the gears and see if it switches gears. First, actually, I'm going to check the oil level. So it's starting to get smoky because I spilled in the engine, and the engine is heating up. So to check the transmission oil, what you want to do is have the car running. Based on the temperature, it will be different. Right now it's reading high. It's reading extremely high, but the problem is I haven't switched it through the gears yet, and I dumped it out. So what I'm going to do now is cycle it through the gears. So I shifted through the gears and it's gone into every gear so far, identifying that there's oil in it. Okay, the vehicle's almost up to operating temperature and the transmission oil level is dropping to about normal. When the vehicle exceeds operating temperature a little bit, what's going to happen is the fans will turn on and it will start to pump for the coolant and the transmission fluid cooler. So it'll start pumping all that through and then I'll be able to add more fluid after. So now what I'm going to do is take the car for a ride and then see how it does then. I'm going to consistently be checking for overheating. If it doesn't overheat, that's a good thing. What you want to do after that is check to see if your reservoir is still full, because it could be sucking the coolant from your reservoir. And then you also want to check your your ATF and see if you still have ATF left, because if you don't, then you can't shift into gears. So I'll show you guys after my drive and see what's changed. Okay guys, so I just got back and that ride was phenomenal. There's no more hard shifting. There's smooth transitions to fast and high. It's not overheating. I'm sure the transmission cooler lines are working now. Actually, what I could do is get under and feel them and see if they're hot, because they were not hot before. Yep, they seem to be working. It is leaking around the drain bolt, so I'm going to go tighten it down a little more, but other than that, it seems to be working fine. We'll pop this. Doesn't seem to be sucking any more coolant. Let me check the dipstick real quick. The dipstick looks good. It's a little high, but that's fine. As long as it's shifting smoothly, everything's secured and tight, and I'm happy with that. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm probably going to do more editing and then go to bed. So good night, guys.